Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Two Wheels in Tokyo. In this week's video I'm going to be sharing with you a review of my newest bike. Maybe I should say my latest bike, because actually this is one of my oldest bikes. This is a 1970s vintage bike that would make it my second oldest bike. So in this week's video I'm going to be sharing with you my most recent bike. Now this bike appears, as far as I'm able to tell so far, to be a Rensho road bike. Rensho is a popular brand here in Japan. They made a lot of bikes through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they have a kind of a cult following overseas. Here in Japan, there's nothing especially rare or exceedingly interesting about them. They're not that hard to find here, but I was looking around for examples of these bikes on eBay, and I was surprised at how much they are selling for in some other places. Now, Rensho stands in Japanese means 3 victories, or more accurately, 3 consecutive victories. And this is to, I guess, emphasize their racing history back in the day. Now, Rensho was an offshoot or evolution of the Cherubim or Cerubium, that's how they say it in the Japanese, bicycle company, which made lots of wonderful bikes back in the day, and employed a number of master frame makers. The most noble of which was Makino-san, who went on to found the Makino bike company, producing frames and bikes for the Keirin race circuit here. These bikes are pretty interesting because though they did make some, I guess, mainstream type bikes or semi-mass production bikes, all their bikes were handmade, but a lot of them were made for bigger markets to be exported overseas. And they're usually marked by a decal which says, for export or super record export on the frame. But pretty much they could make anything. And I've seen all kinds of 3 Rensho stuff here. Mountain bikes, cyclocross bikes, touring bikes, and even a trike. So pretty much if you wanted a bike made, you could just tell them what you wanted and they would do it for you. Now, some people were skeptical as to whether this bike was really a Rensho bike, and I kind of scratched my head about this. It's like pointing at a hamburger and asking me, is that a genuine McDonald's hamburger or is that a copy? Because here in Japan, these bikes are not especially rare or expensive. I can buy one of these bikes any day of the week here in Japan for $400 or $500. So, but just to be sure, I took it down yesterday, as a matter of fact, to a guy who paints and restores bikes here in Tokyo. Once I got it running, and he looked at it and he says he's about 95% sure it's a Rensho. It doesn't have a typical serial number on it, a numerical one. It's a custom order bike. It just has 3 initials and 2 digits on it, meaning it was made for an exhibition or event, or was custom made for a rider sometime back in the late 1970s. So I found this bike for sale online here in Japan. I was hunting for parts for something else, and I saw this and I was kind of intrigued by the chrome finish. I've always wanted a chrome bike ever since I was lusting after a Schwinn Sting back when I was in junior high school. And when I went to the Schwinn store to look at it, they also had a Schwinn Voyager touring bike with a chrome frame, and I thought, wow, that's so beautiful. Someday I'll get a bike like that. Like the old song goes, someday never comes, or something like that, and that's often the case. But eventually my someday did come, but it took a lot longer than I thought. Now the bike was just kind of a general listing. All the advertisement for it said was Chuko road bike, which means used road bike. And it looked more or less complete. The chain was on it. It had tires on it. They didn't look too bad in the photos. It was a little rusty, but not so bad. And so I decided that I would make an offer on it. And the price was really, really cheap because the guy wouldn't ship. So to get the bike, you have to actually go out and pick it up. And that greatly drives down the price because, pretty much only people who live locally can buy it. So locally it was 45 kilometers away, not especially close. So I decided I would go ahead and and just take the train out there and try to ride it home. And if I couldn't ride it home, then I would just get a taxi and have them put it in the back. I put some air in the tires, and luckily they held air and I was able to ride it home. While I was there, I was looking at the other stuff the guy had. He had a number of other bikes. There were lots of bikes there. It was a metal recycling shop, and what they do is they buy cans and scrap metal from people and businesses, and they also buy abandoned bicycles from the prefectural governments, and they had thousands of bicycles. These were all packed on pallets to be shipped off to China to be melted down and made into who knows what. Kind of reminds me of that old line from Star Wars where C3PO says, "We'll be spent to the we'll be sent to the spice mines of Kessel or melted down into who knows what." And that was almost the fate of this bike, but luckily someone at this recycling shop, if he sees something interesting, he pulls them out and attempts to sell them. And he doesn't always sell them, but in my case, I got lucky and the bike got lucky. So I picked it up. The ride home was kind of interesting. The tires on the bike were the only thing actually which was working really, really well. The bike was rideable. I don't recommend getting on a clunky old bike which you're not familiar with and riding it across a metro area, 45 kilometers. I did make it home, and as soon as I got home, I decided that the bike had to get some upgrades and some parts replaced on it. So the original parts on this bike, it's hard to say what it was fitted with back in the 70s. It came with a Cinelli stem and a Cinelli bar, and many of these bikes were fitted with the old Campi Novo or Super Record components back in the day, but literally you could have anything on them. And the original parts were gone, and sometime in the 1990s it was upgraded to the Shimano 600, and it still worked. It worked well enough to get me home, but I was kind of thinking what I should do. Should I just kind of refurbish the old components, get them cleaned up, shine them up, and just ride the bike with what was on it, or should I do something else? And as I was looking at the components, they had lots of rust and stuff like that. I probably could have cleaned them up and they would have worked perfectly well, but time is money, and I didn't want to waste so much time. I thought it would be better just to buy better parts. It doesn't mean I have more time than money. No one has enough time. Probably no one has enough money either. So, but in my case, parts here in Japan are really cheap, and I'd rather just spend a few yen to buy them, rather than spend how many hours trying to clean them up. And besides that, when you live in a home which doesn't have a workshop or any of that kind of stuff, it's kind of, you don't have a lot of, it's not easy to clean up metal components and things like that. I've tried. So I began shopping for parts to upgrade the bike and make it more rideable, and they were cheap. The components were really cheap. Now, the bike itself cost me $150, which is kind of a song for a handmade chrome-plated Japanese bike from the 1970s, and the components were really cheap as well. For example, it's a Dura Ace 7400 front derailleur in really good condition. I paid $10 for that. And the Dura Ace 7400 brake calipers in the front and back in almost new condition. Those cost me $40. And the rest of the components I bought in just a box of bicycle parts marked Dura Ace 7400. It included the shifters, the levers, the crankset, and the rear derailleur, and a bunch of small parts. I've got enough parts now to probably build yet another bike, which I better not do. I don't even have a place to park this one, let alone any more. But I cleaned everything up and put the bike together, and I had it all together when I was able to take it and have the guy check it out yesterday. So as you can see, it looks pretty nice. I love the 7400 stem here, which doesn't have any hardware on the outside. It's really clean. It's kind of the old Aero style when they brought out the AX group back in the early 1980s. And I really love the standard shift levers without the STI nonsense on them. And this bike brakes really, really well. I'm kind of used to disc brakes. I've been using those for quite a while now. They're on all of my bikes except for my old Molten. And this bike easily stops as quickly as any of the disc brake bikes. It might not work well in deep water, but then disc brakes are a little iffy too when it's raining hard. Unfortunately, I know that from experience. The hubs on the front and rear, these are also Dura Ace 7400, and I have the Mavic GP4 tubular wheels here. Tubular, in the old days we called them sew-ups because that's the tubes are sewn up inside the tires, and the tire and tube are glued onto the wheel. In the old days, this was a way to quickly tell if the bike was a real bike or not. If it was a real professional quality bike, it ran sew-up tires. Everything else ran clinchers. Now, 100% of the pros in those days used sew-ups, and maybe more than half of them today are still using it, though nowadays it seems that the tire market is more oriented toward consumers, and consumer fads, and racers run things which they think that consumers will buy. Rather, it's more like function follows form rather than form follows function. But for myself, I love the convenience of clincher tires, how easy they are to replace, and to replace tubes and punctures and things like that. But nothing rides like tubulars. When I was riding this bike back from Saitama, I just loved the way the tires work. And these were I'm still running the stupid original tires, these not expensive Vittoria Sprints, but they were in really good condition, so I thought I'd go ahead and reuse them. But because new tires now, this sew-ups or tubulars are kind of stupidly expensive. I'll just go ahead and run these ones until I wear them out, and then I'll go ahead and replace them with something nicer. And thankfully, they still make them. Now, I love the 7400 components. 7400 is kind of unique because you could go either full retro with the friction shifting and the old Boss-free 6 or 7 speed in the back, or you could do index shifting, or you could even go with STIs. There are 3 different options available with this driveline. And I decided to go the way in the middle. I don't like the old Shimano STI. I think it looks ugly, and I don't like all the cables in the front, separate cables for the shifters and for the brakes. And I love how clean this is. I love how all the cables are out of the way. Just the 2 brake cables are visible there, but much cleaner than the STI system, and better than the older system where the cables come out the top. I don't mind how that looks, but this looks just much better to me. And I got the index shifting on this bike. This has a 8-speed driveline, a 2x8, and this is index shifting. So you just pop this from gear to gear to gear. It clicks audibly between gears, and it shifts exactly into the proper gear without the playing with it or finessing like you have to do with friction shifters. And this bike is fitted with an HG free hub, which is wonderful because if I decide to upgrade this bike to a more modern driveline, it's all I have to do is just simply put in whatever cassette I like and whatever shifters and derailleur system I like. Now, these old bikes, despite the fact that this is a 70s vintage, a bike like this can be upgraded to use all the latest components on it. My old Molten is a good example. That's like 80s technology bike, but it's currently running the Dura Ace Di2 setup on it. So that would work just as well on this. But I'm probably just going to keep it like this because it looks beautiful. Now, the one thing which I still don't have on the final touch is the center caps for the crankset. But those are on the way. They should arrive tomorrow. And also saddle is going to arrive tomorrow. I was thinking about putting a Brooks on this bike, but I decided I would do something a little bit more retro and run the Cell San Marco Girardi saddle, which I guess fits the theme better, and it's almost as comfortable as a Brooks. Not quite, but I'm not going to be doing those 10 or 12 hour rides on this bike like I do my other bikes, so that'll be perfectly adequate for it. Now, this is a wonderful bike for riding around town here. The only downfall, or what is it? I guess the only thing which I don't like about it is it doesn't have enough gearing for me. If I lived, if I were still like living in South Florida where there are no hills or anything, and the only climbs are the overpasses, this would be perfect for that. But here in Japan, we have mountains, and I live in a kind of hilly part of the city, so I have to do a bit of climbing when I come back here. It's all right, but I'm kind of spoiled on my other bikes, which have much wider gearing. So I'll probably go ahead and change the gearing a little bit, get a cassette with a few more teeth on the back. It's running a 14 to 21 right now, excuse me, 13 to 21. I think I can go up to, with this derailleur, I can go as much as 27, so I may do that, and I'll put it on. I'll have to make the chain a little bit longer, but I kept some links for this. It's a nice KMC chain, works beautifully well. And yeah, I weighed this bike today on my way out. It weighs an exact 10 kilograms, which isn't bad for a steel bike of this vintage. But anyway, that's it for this video, and I hope you liked having a look at a vintage Japanese bike. The next video I'm going to make will be a kind of tour around the city on this bike, and I'll share with you some of the sights, sounds, and scenery of Tokyo. I plan to go out to the Toyosu, Ariake, and Odaiba area, which is a kind of a interesting and scenic place, and I have to go through some interesting places like Toranoman and Ginza to get to these places. So I should have that video up next week, and if you want to see it, please subscribe. If you have any questions or comments or anything you would like to see from here in Japan, please let me know. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.